Amalia is a complicated woman, and that's always attractive. She is a reluctant leader of the Touched.
I didn't ask for it. I'm not cut out for it.
She doesn't want to be in the role that she's in.
Do you think anything that's happening has to do with what I wish?
She's trying to gather the Touched together. She's trying to provide them with a safe place. But in some senses, she really is quite lost. She carries so many secrets, and that's really fun to play with. Secrets are the fundamental part of what will always attract me to a character. So long as it isn't all out there up front, then you really have something to play with.
When I meet someone, the first thing I think of is how to kill them.
Mrs. True tends to be a few steps ahead of the rest of us.
A prognosticator.
It's as confusing as it is useful.
Amalia's power is what we call a rippling. She has these sudden, violent flash forwards into moments in the future that she doesn't understand, she has no context for. And then later, at some point, she will be in that moment and realize that that was what her rippling was.
We're going to the opera.
It's not a great power to have. It's just something that happens to her and she has to try to deal with and use in the best way she can. One of Amalia's biggest problems is that she's not sure who her enemies are.
We were attacked today.
Only once.
She's told Penance everything, and she is the only friend that Amalia really believes. But Amalia's still learning who she can trust and who she can't trust. She knows that obviously Melody is an enemy. I killed the devil. But she doesn't know what Melody's aim is and doesn't know whether she's a personal enemy as well.
I don't know how to do this.
Obviously. She knows that she's got to fight her, but she doesn't know anything about her.
Oh no, you found me.
There are public faces that seem like they're not enemies, but Amalia has very good reason to suspect they are. Masson is certainly the #1 of all of those.
I take it then that you are among the afflicted.
We don't consider ourselves afflicted.
She knows he feels that the Touched are a scourge on society.
There's a harmony to our world that's worth preserving.
As I understand it, a harmony is made up of different voices sounding different notes.
And one is always above the other.
He is not one for progress.
The Touched are going to change things. I'll adapt.
With the Beggar King, there's a kind of frenemy situation.
Skip the posture and name your price.
How about you get me the crown fucking jewels? Wait, are you considering that?
We're resourceful.
She can use the Beggar King. She can hire him, but she has reason to believe that he may also be working for the other side. It results in Amalia being extremely wary of her surroundings. She jumps into action quickly. She makes mistakes, but everything that she does is where she's supposed to be.
Augie's best friend is Hugo Swann. They've known each other forever.
You don't mind when people are odd? It's how we're friends.
They would take a bullet for one another.
As far as society is concerned, Augustus Bidlow is above reproach. He's perfect.
I think Augie would take one for Hugo first.
Sorry, what?
Hugo is like no one else I've ever heard about.
That's a pungent gambit.
Hugo is incredibly gregarious and boisterous and irreverent.
You know, the Touched.
Yes, they're terrible.
They're wonderful. They're sad.
He's a lord, which gives him an immense amount of privilege. On the other hand, he actively extricates himself from it. He lives really according to his own code. He's a pansexual posh boy who is rude, loud, and indecent, but he's a goddamn delight.
You seem a bit nervous.
I usually am.
Hugo's best friend, Augie, is very contained and repressed.
Augie's constantly anxious and vulnerable. He lets his sister, Lavinia, boss him around because he knows no other way.
The Touched are not a threat, yet you seem determined to prove that they are.
Just bringing the touch to the opera. Do you think they might be hideous?
Well, whatever they are, flirt with the ugly one. Creates an unexpected balance.
Initially, he is repelled by the Touched. At the same time, there's a certain level of curiosity.
What's wrong with you?
I think he means me.
At the opera, Augie realises that he's touched. Penance witnessed him having that moment.
I dreamt I was a crow soaring over the countryside.
He's being opened up in a way it's never been allowed to before. He's with a bunch of people, and one person particularly that he wants to impress. It's not out of character, maybe it's just buried very deep for Augie to go with Amalia on the expedition to the Galanthe. Amalia both intimidates and fascinates Augie. She is very driven, and I think he's drawn to the potential in that.
What do you think you'll find down there?
Can I just say hope?
And I think that's allowing him to spread his wings.
Hugo's relationship to the Touched is quite complicated. It's not as simple as ally or enemy. He runs the Ferryman's Club, where people of wealth and privilege get to live out their fantasies.
This is the finest party I've been to all day.
Hugo realizes the Touched could be a fantastic asset for his club.
The Touched are the future.
On the one hand, Hugo is using these people.
The Ferryman's is a massive venture. More even than I'd hoped.
But on the other hand, he is
Paying them and housing them.
his relationship is not black and white.
The Touched, they have a right to earn a living. I need a small investment.
How much?
Augie, I don't need money. It's your name I find fetching. It lends legitimacy.
He's using Augie's credibility and integrity to give the Ferrymans a sheen of civility.
Keeps the legal woes at bay.
Everyone's got that friend who, if they met them now, they wouldn't be friends. But Augie does get a kick out of Hugo. Whether his knee-jerk reaction is to be offended, the truth is that there's a little bit of him that enjoys the chance to...
Look important, say no a lot.
No?
Who moved the body?
It must be. Wait, what?
Frank has an infamous reputation. One more lie, and I'm not on the case. I'm the fucking angle of death. He's not shy of persuasion by knuckle. Frank is a detective in the Metropolitan Police. Inspector Mundi, Scotland Yard.
Frankie Mundi, you're the one likes knocking suspects about. What do they do to set you off?
They call me Frankie. He's short of fuse, quick of temper. I connect to that quite easily now. As my old acting teacher would call it, getting in touch with your rage. He does genuinely care that justice is done. It's one of the therapeutic parts of the job. You touched. You're worse than the fucking toffs. The Touched introduced an element of chaos and instability into society, particularly London. The order is to eliminate malady at any cost. But I do think instinctively he relates to the outsider element of it, the underdog element.
Witches! Freaks! Why don't we drag you all?
The not acceptable element of them, because he carries his own secrets and battles his own demons. It's to do with Frank's sexuality. There has been dalliances between Hugo and Frank. There's an attraction that he finds upsetting and worrying and confusing.
Sometimes I think you want to get caught.
He's absolutely torn and in a complete mess about it.
I was drunk! I was blind drunk!
You were drunk the first time.
There's this push me, pull me, agony going on. And shame, great shame about it. Hugo couldn't care less. He's a bohemian, free spirit. Frank's the opposite.
I might even forget a few debts.
Hugo has leverage. So Frank's in a very difficult position.
Are we done?
Oh, we're done, Swann. He doesn't want to be beholden to anybody.
I had nothing against Mary.
She was a rival.
I think you know she wasn't.
Frank and Mary were engaged, and Mary breaks off the engagement quite late.
There's a part of you that you hate. I won't say any more, except that I will never hate you.
He genuinely does care about her. So he asks her at this moment of reconciliation that they have, next time you sing, I'd like to be there.
You know that only the touch can hear it.
Could at least just give it a go. Tragically can't hear it, but tries, which is a lovely sort of metaphor in itself, isn't it? I think he's devastated in a way that is exacerbated by not being able to fulfill his side of the relationship. But I do think it spurs him into action, to see that justice is done. Who moved the body?
It must be. Wait, what?
Frank has an infamous reputation.
One more lie, and I'm not on a case. I'm the fucking angle of death.
He's not shy of persuasion by knuckle. Frank is a detective in the Metropolitan Police.
Inspector Mundi, Scotland Yard.
Frankie Mundi, you're the one likes knocking suspects about. What do they do to set you off?
They call me Frankie.
He's short of fuse, quick of temper. I connect to that quite easily now. As my old acting teacher would call it, getting in touch with your rage. He does genuinely care that justice is done. It's one of the therapeutic parts of the job.
You touched. You're worse than the fucking toffs.
The touch to introduce an element of chaos and instability into society, particularly London.
The order is to eliminate malady at any cost.
But I do think instinctively he relates to the outsider element of it, the underdog element.
Wait, chase! Freaks! Why don't we drag you all?
The not acceptable element of them, because he carries his own secrets and battles his own demons. It's to do with Frank's sexuality. There has been dalliances between Hugo and Frank. There's an attraction that he finds upsetting and worrying and confusing.
Sometimes I think you want to get caught.
He's absolutely torn and in a complete mess about it.
I was drunk! I was blind drunk!
You were drunk the first time.
There's this push me, pull me, agony going on. And shame, great shame about it. Hugo couldn't care less. He's a bohemian, free spirit. Frank's the opposite.
I might even forget a few debts.
Hugo has leverage. So Frank's in a very difficult position.
Are we done?
Oh, we're done, Swann.
He doesn't want to be beholden to anybody.
I had nothing against Mary.
She was a rival.
I think you know she wasn't.
Frank and Mary were engaged, and Mary breaks off the engagement quite late.
There's a part of you that you hate. I won't say any more, except that I will never hate you.
He genuinely does care about her. So he asks her at this moment of reconciliation that they have,
next time you sing, I'd like to be there.
You know that only the touch can hear it.
Could at least just give it a go.
Tragically can't hear it, but tries, which is a lovely sort of metaphor in itself, isn't it? I think he's devastated in a way that is exacerbated by not being able to fulfill his side of the relationship. But I do think it spurs him into action to see that justice is done.
Mary has this very pure quality, but it's inspiration for so many people. That's what makes her special. Mary is somewhat shy. She wants to be a performer, an actress, a singer, and hasn't really been able to realise that dream. But when Melody is threatening everyone...
Either I am here for a reason, or for a bonfire!
Mary's power, her touch, it suddenly comes upon her. This voice that she emits, it just has to come out. It's something that she thought was just for her, just something secret that she had, and then suddenly she realises it's much more powerful than even she knows. And it's this beacon of light and hope to all the touched. And it's her way of connecting to Melody and knowing that she might hear it and knowing that it might be a way of stopping her in her tracks. And we see other people in the audience that are touched because they can hear it, whereas everyone else can't. They don't know what's going on. Her superpower might not be kicking ass, but actually a kind of pretty strong force in her own right. Finding the character straight off in a scene that's that important was quite intense, and it was kind of amazing to work like that, which I really loved.
Take the angel.
Guns firing and explosions and blue light. It's always nice when you start with something that's so key to the character, because you know then what she has, and also how she then really struggles to get that back. It's something that comes over her, it washes over her. It's not something she necessarily chooses when it happens, as much as she'd like to. I don't understand where it comes from. It might be a reassurance that you needn't act only from pain.
Is Mary touched?
Frank and Mary's relationship is very complicated.
What's her tone?
I thought you were after Melody.
There's a lot of love there, but it becomes clear that their relationship stopped working for many reasons. The fact that he's not being honest with himself.
I'll paint you a picture of me last summer, standing at the altar with no fucking bride.
Mary jilted him at the altar.
Don't you judge her? Mary is a kind, caring woman. I wouldn't marry me either.
It's incredibly sad. They still have this bond.
I'm sorry for your terrible day.
You know, I always thought that I'd be the one saying that to you. It's very beautiful. It becomes a friendship. Mary is, at heart, a very pure and very true person.
Penance is one of those people who are a comfort in the world. She brings a kind of humour to dark situations.
Evildoers beware.
Penance is Amalia's right-hand man and the person she trusts most in the world.
Miss Adair, you look very fine. I think so too.
On paper, they're definitely very different. Penance is more of a lover than a fighter.
Let's just try to keep it civil.
Amalia has all this baggage.
Every woman keeps secrets. Every touched woman keeps a great deal more.
Penance is the opposite. She's very loving and accepting, which is always nice to have that person. I mostly connect with Penance in her lightness. I do think she's definitely a better person than me.
You're quite nice.
There's plenty of girls who've been shown a strangeness of some kind, a turn. But Mrs. True and I, we've worked with them and they come up fine. The orphanage is a refuge for the touched. It's a place that they hopefully feel safe in. They have a little community of people who have all these abilities.
Primrose, I recalled you saying you didn't have anyone your own age to talk to.
Oh, I'm Miss Chataway.
A place where they can understand what has happened to them and understand their powers and that they're not freaks.
All of us that's touched, we're woven into the fabric of the world.
Penance is kind of a natural fit in helping run the place. She's like the less strict parent.
Some of the gentlemen have begun wagering on whether Lucy can break the statue of Aphrodite in the garden.
If you went to Amalia, she'd be like, shut up and eat your broccoli.
Can I not be made the villain of the piece?
Penance would be like, okay, look, have half your broccoli and we'll have some chocolate together later, maybe.
They're anxious to know what your turns are.
Penance is an inventor.
Penance's powers, she can see potential energy. People think the electricity is in the wire, but it's everywhere. That helps her invent these mad contraptions.
All I need is some copper wire and we'll have some prototypes.
Penance's workshop is the coolest set. It's a place where the doors open for everyone. It's a good communal point. I love the most impractical inventions. Weapons of mass inconvenience. The parasols look like umbrellas, but they are actually like a taser, which is like electricity for Penance. And a knuckle duster, which represents Amalia. These inventions, they let you into Penance's mad head a bit. She's a good example of someone who is confident in her abilities and herself and accepts her powers and loves them.
We have the best jobs.